How's it going, everyone? So today we're going to be doing a trade recap of the trade that I took on Wednesday, April 6th. I traded Tesla puts. I did take 2 trades on the day. I finished up 800, but one of the trades I made $650 in 5 seconds. Yes, you heard that right. 5 seconds, made a decent amount of money, and I'm glad that I got it recorded. Now, this situation is super unique. I do not make that much money that quick. I am a scalper. I'm holding anywhere from 1 to 2 minutes. But whenever I get a quick move in my favor, I'm usually taking profits. And this just happened to be a unique situation where it moved really nicely in my favor in 5 seconds. That's the power of scalping. Sometimes things go against you. They go in your favor. You never really know what's going to happen, but just taking the setups that I know work well for me. And sometimes they work really well. And today's a good example of it. So now let's go through the newsletter watch list. I was looking at Tesla, Nvidia, AMD, Alibaba, and UPST. And I know I trade Tesla a lot. I trade it every single day. It's my favorite stock. But the reason why I analyze these other stocks is because I think these are the next best in play. And I know that not everybody likes to trade Tesla. So I've been doing this for 5 years. I can still analyze the technicals accordingly. And I think that for everybody else who's interested in following my newsletter, these are the next best stocks and all the technicals are still relevant. And for those that don't already know, this is exactly what I'm posting on my private Twitter 30 minutes before the open each day. It's my game plan and everything that's going on in my head. I do a quick analysis of the overall market, the SPY and the Qs, if there's any major market news, all the stocks that I think are in play, if there's any news tied to them, and all the levels that I think are in play on that stock and why I think it's worth looking at that day. And to the left, this is exactly what I'm posting on my private Twitter, so I make sure to add that newsletter. I take a screenshot of the charts, green line to the upside being long, red line to the downside being short, and then I make sure to highlight the 2 major levels above. And then something new that I've started to do is the mental notes. I make sure to put in a separate tweet, just kind of what I'm thinking that day. And on this day, I said, feels like a day to practice patience. Down days can be tricky, could take a bit for clear direction. No need to get chopped up trying to anticipate too much. Also, watching less on these days can be a good thing. Wait for trend, then scalp it. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but just having a little bit of an idea of what could possibly happen based on the 5 years of my experience. So now let's go into the technicals because this is the most important part. It's exactly what I'm thinking and why I want to look at all these stocks. So let's start with the market, SPY. I said not a good candle yesterday, couldn't hold prior day high, sellers took control, dip gets bought, reclaims 449 support, starts to trend higher, has room to 451, 452 resistance, could close the upside gap, stays weak off the open, and the pullback could continue. Breaks pre-market low and stays below, has room to 445, 442. And now the Qs, so not a good candle yesterday as well, couldn't even get above prior day high, sellers took control, dip gets bought and reclaims 359 support, has room to 361, 362 resistance, stays weak and the pullback could continue, breaks pre-market low and stays below, has room to 352, 350. And now Tesla, bad candle yesterday, gave back all of the breakout candle on April 4th. Not a good sign for momentum. Sellers took back control for the short term. Dip gets bought, clears pre-market high, could bounce, has room to 1095, 1105 resistance, stays below 1066, which was major support on the daily, could get selling pressure. Breaks pre-market low and stays below, has room to 1050, 1040 support. And now Nvidia, so not a good candle yesterday, back below the 9 EMA, market is weak and it could continue to get selling pressure. Dip gets bought, clears pre-market high, has room to 261, 263 resistance, stays weak off the open and breaks pre-market low and stays below, has room to 243, 240. And now AMD, so a weak candle yesterday and below the 9 EMA, 20 SMA, 50 SMA, and 200 SMA on daily. Feels weak. Dip gets bought and clears pre-market high, has room to 108, 109 resistance, remains weak off the open and breaks pre-market low and gets below 102 support. The pullback can continue, has room to 198. And now Alibaba, so I said that it's weak with the overall market today. 109 was major support on the daily, stays below that and could get selling pressure. Dip gets bought and clears pre-market high, has room to 112, 113 resistance, remains weak and breaks pre-market low and stays below, has room to 105, 102. And now UPST, so consolidating towards the lows and below the 9 EMA on the daily. 100 is major daily support, can't hold that and could get selling pressure. Keeping it simple and watching pre-market high, pre-market low. So now let's go over the first trade on Tesla, which is going to be to the downside. So I had a push off the open, rejected pretty aggressively at that 1078 level, back below the VWAP and the 9 EMA, forming a bear flag. If it breaks the low of that, I thought there was going to be more follow through to the downside. So it had to bounce to VWAP, but clearly got rejected. Now it's showing some weakness. I wanted to anticipate the new low of day, so I ended up going short. I took the 1055 puts, 5 of them, and I got filled at $20.15. I did get a quick move in my favor, but then as you can see, it kind of just paused right there. And whenever Tesla has that pause, sometimes it can do the opposite really quick. So I ended up just getting out of it. My gut kind of told me bail on this and then I can wait for another setup. I'm glad that I did. And I actually ended up selling those contracts at $20.45 and made a few bucks. So that really was the mindset of it made a new low. It did not go quick. It stopped on a dime, started to bounce a little bit, and just to be safe, get out of it, and I can always reevaluate it if it sets up again. And now getting into the second trade, which is only 5 seconds, which is pretty crazy. So clearly had some follow through to the downside, even though it wasn't super clean, forming a nice bear flag. So just trying to go with the trend, wait for trend, then scalp it. So if it breaks the low of that flag, I thought there was going to be more follow through to the downside. So it's clearly weak. I like the bear flag. I want to try to anticipate the break just a little bit. So I end up going short right there. I took the 1050 puts, 5 of them, and look at that insane move. I think that triggered stops right away. I get a big flush like that. I'm just clicking the sell button, and I ended up taking the full position off, sold them for $22, and got a really nice move in my favor. So now let's go check out the P&L. Ended up making $150 on the first trade and $650 on the second trade in 5 seconds, which is a pretty incredible trade, and being up $800 on the day, which is a decent green day. So that was the trade recap. I appreciate you watching the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I just wanted to highlight a couple cool things I have to offer. The first is going to be my newsletter watch list. This is going to be what I post on my private Twitter 30 minutes before market open every day. And what I'm doing is I'm doing a very quick highlight of the SPY, the Qs, the bigger picture, the upside level that I'm looking at, the downside level that I'm looking at, the market news or the catalyst that day. And then I'm going to list 4 to 6 names that I'm watching, my favorites that day, and then the catalyst behind them if there's any news, the bigger picture idea, what's going on the daily chart, and then the levels to the upside and the downside. And then I add some mental notes at the bottom, kind of what I'm thinking that day, make sure to keep my expectations in check and follow my process. And the second thing is going to be a one-on-one call. So if you want something that's less of a commitment and you just want to talk to me about my process and how I approach the market, this is going to be great. It's a one-on-one live call for 1 hour. So if you're interested in any one of these 2 things, there will be links in the description below. Feel free to check them out.